All right, everybody, welcome back to the Ridgeline Hunting Podcast, brought to you by Phelps Game Calls, professional grade game calls made for every hunter.
If you're trying to get close with elk, turkey, predators, or waterfowl, Phelps has you covered.
That's right, so go to phelpsgamecalls.com. Get them close.
All right, welcome back. We're back here talking again with Kody Rainford, and we just wanted to talk some regular hunt talk. You know, we just covered our preseason duck hunting special. We're going to go into more detail with him after the season opener. Then we're going to follow up mid-season and then at the end of the season as well. But Kody had a good hunt this year where he was able to draw a limited access hunt in Idaho, one of 60 tags that were handed out, and he scored on a whopper bull. So without any further ado, we're going to introduce Kody. Hey, Kody.
Hey.
Sorry about that, man. We have a little bit of an internet lag.
That's all right.
Yeah, I know. I'm on Starlink because I can't even make phone calls from where I live. I have to use Wi-Fi for everything.
You know what, though? This is probably the first, call in where the audio is, really, really good. So,
yeah, it's surprising because Starlink's relatively new. You know, I mean,
it is, yeah.
And it's working great.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool because what are we, like 1,200 miles away, and it's like satellite back down to Earth. I mean, done.
Yeah, and it's crystal clear.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, when he said, "Hey, I got to go on my Starlink," I was like, "This is kind of like Star Trek, you know, like we're getting high tech here. We're podcasting on Starlink. That's badass." So you got drawn for this limited access bull elk hunt this year, and you were telling us about it a little bit. So why don't you share with the audience what happened and how you were able to be successful?
Yeah, how it all went down. Just go ahead and break the whole hunt down.
We're gonna have questions mixed in here too because we want to know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we were not successful this early season, so we want a good breakdown.
Mind you, I don't archery hunt anymore. This was a rifle hunt.
That's okay. That's okay.
No, so I used to archery hunt, and I was never successful with a bow. I was close one time on a cow, but that's a story for another day. And I ended up just selling my bow. I was done archery hunting. It's discouraging, but I just tried to keep my head high and knew I still wanted a big game hunt. I just changed my way of doing it. Anyway, that's when I lived in Eastern Washington. But so for my Idaho season here, I was very, very fortunate, extremely lucky because I didn't get to put in for any tags last season because I hadn't lived here for 6 months yet. And I would have had to pay out of state fees, and I wasn't going to do that. So drawing this first time ever putting in for anything in Idaho, and I didn't even put it. You can put in for 2 controlled hunts. I didn't even put in for 2. I put in for 1. This one tag, and I flippin' drew it.
I'm telling you, man, you have more opportunity off of 1 point than you do with someone with 30. It's the weirdest thing because I've drawn off 1 point as well on some on tags, and it's like, really?
But
guys are like, "What? I have like 12 points, man."
But from my understanding, so Idaho's just off of lottery, not a point system.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that makes it
so that
fair game, really, because everybody's got 1 point.
It changes everything.
Yeah.
And so anyway, they only give out 60 of these tags, and this is a full-blown trophy unit. And so my girlfriend put in for the same tag, and she was on the app looking. She's like, "Oh, I didn't draw. Did you check your app yet?" I'm like, "No, I didn't even know the results were out." I open it up, and it says selected. I about crapped myself right there. I'm like, what?
That's a good feeling. That's a good feeling when you get selected. You know,
I couldn't. And so one of my buddies that I have here, he took me up to deer camp last year in this unit. And so I got to kind of see the layout of the north end of the unit. And they've been putting in for this tag for 5, 6, 7, 8 years and never drawn it. Their whole group.
Oh, wow. And you draw it on the first try.
Did you get any hate mail?
So yeah, were they just straight pissed?
Yeah. So
well, I mean, obviously they're probably like, "Hey man, good job," but damn it.
Yeah. So one of the guys who actually he has a cabin up at the very north end of this unit. They literally walk out his cabin back door and go hunt, which is pretty cool. He was a little upset about it, but I'm like, dude, it's one of those things. Don't hate the player, hate the game. I didn't. Just got I got lucky. What do you want me to do? So anyway,
is that why you had to pack it out by yourself? Because then they weren't going to help you. Like, you get this bull, we're not helping you. On your own.
Yeah, for real. No, it was kind of something I wanted to do on my own, just so I could get the full experience of doing it on my own. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting too is, until this point, I had never ever laid a knife on an elk. So I've cut up deer.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're getting a full meal deal right there.
Yeah.
I saw the photos.
So I've cut up deer, and I've never actually done a full deer on my own. I've always had somebody with me. Mm-hmm. So doing this, I felt like I was ready for this experience. Like, I know it's way bigger animal than a deer, and so I draw this tag. Didn't even have anything bigger than a 6.5 Creedmoor. Right away, I'm like, okay, I want a bigger rifle, and I didn't go much bigger. I got a 7 Rem mag, which not a lot bigger, but it's a faster moving bullet. And got into reloading. Did all my own loads, all my own load development, finding the best load, best accuracy, everything. And so drawing that tag, I knew I had 4 months to the date. And I'm also thinking, I'm like way out of shape. I have
a couple questions. Not to cut you off, but I have a couple questions. So you just jumped over a couple topics that are near and dear to my heart and near and dear to Dave's heart. So Dave loves the 6.5 Creedmoor, and we've talked about this before. And we have a joke, you couldn't kill it with a 6.5 or whatever. We like to flip each other a hard time on it. But so you actually went out, you bought a new rifle, you took a crash course, quick study, picked up how to reload your own rounds. Mm-hmm. Got a load dialed up. How far were you shooting the load you finally settled on?
So I got it dialed in as best as I could at 100, and then started shooting steel. There's so once you start heading south towards, so I'm not too far from Nevada. Mm-hmm. There's Highway 93, head south. There's a cool range out there with a bunch of steel targets set up at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,000. Like they go all the way out. Mm-hmm. And so I was hitting steel at 500 yards.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
I'm like, okay. I feel comfortable shooting out to 500. I prefer not to, but if I had to, I could. Mm-hmm.
That's impressive.
So
man.
That's where I want to be at, because I had to pass a bear at 485 because I was not comfortable shooting that far.
Oh, dang, yeah. See,
well, I'm more of like on the west side, and we don't really shoot that far. We don't really have to shoot that far. I mean, 200, is far enough, really.
A lot 250. Of trees in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of trees over there. I know that.
But when you head over towards the east side, where I was getting ready to shoot at this bear, you can reach out
wide
and
open sagebrush.
Well, I was up in the mountains, but it was like canyon to canyon. So I was like,
okay,
yeah, shooting over a little creek bottom, and it was just too far. But it was a monster bear, and I was like, oh god, like dang it, I need to get better.
What round did you end up settling on for the bullet, like weight and that stuff?
So, in all the research I did, a lot of people recommend like those solid copper bullets, which penetrate a lot better. You get a lot more penetration. And obviously, I knew with this elk tag, you want more penetration with an elk, but I also wanted that happy medium of the most accurate, longer range bullet possible because once those copper bullets start to drop off, they're way less effective.
Gotta hit
So
them on
I settled on the Hornady 162 grain ELDX bullet.
Okay. Yeah, we have some of those here. Yeah, those are good bullets, man.
And it was so like on my 6.5 Creedmoor, I shoot the 143 grain ELDX bullet, but it's all factory loads. I've never reloaded for my 6.5.
That's usually what I shoot. I'm just getting into reloading, so I haven't even actually started reloading anything yet. But yeah, that's the next phase in my process.
Did you
Did
you get a chance to shoot it through the chrono? See how fast it was going?
I did pick up a chrono so I knew how fast. So what I did is I found the bullet that worked, that had the best group at 100 yards, and then I chronoed that bullet.
My man.
And it was about 2950. So I was shooting for 3,000 feet per second, but it came out to 2950. I was like,
close enough.
I was like, as long as it's over 2,800, I'm happy. And
that's
like, okay.
That thing's
oh
cooking.
Yeah,
that's pretty dang fast.
So I'm like, I'm shooting this 162 grain. I mean, it's one of the best long range bullets you can get. And I mean, at least in my opinion, I know I got a buddy who spined a spike in Eastern Washington with a 6.5 Creedmoor at 1,055 yards, dropped it where it stood.
Jeez.
So I think it's a great bullet. I've heard great things, but I've also heard bad things. But I think that's how any bullet goes.
I think that's just going to be with anything anyways, because you can say the same thing with a broadhead, like, oh, those suck, but I've killed every single thing I can think of with some of these broadheads that people are saying they suck. So they're going to say the same thing with a bullet. I mean,
yep.
Everything's shot placement.
What it does come down to in the end is I think with no doubt in my mind, is shot placement.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah, and operating within your effective range, of your equipment too.
Yeah.
So you get it there. Yeah. And it's doing that. If it's doing that 2950, there ain't a whole lot going to stand up to 2950 at 162. That's a lot of power when it gets there.
Exactly, and that they recommend 1,500 foot-pounds of energy for an elk. Well, that bullet has 1,500 foot-pounds of energy all the way out, or more than 1,500 or more, all the way out to like 680 yards.
Yeah, so you're dialed in, man, because a lot of people don't even know, or they never even, well, I won't say that. I will say that when you get involved in the shooting sports and you start to understand, pound-feet of energy and velocities and bullet grain weights, and you got dialed in, you got up to speed, it sounds like pretty quick on all these things, because, you have they should do, how they have that little chart, it says like the hot crazy matrix or the F around and find out, and you have to go a little farther here.
Yes.
Well, they should have like the another matrix for the pound feet of energy, where it starts up high, and as it drops, it goes down here to the no-go zone. That's like the 1,000 pound feet for deer, 1,500 pound feet for elk. I mean, there's numbers where things become drastically more difficult to be successful at
the yardages. Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll have that distance. That chart will give you the pound feet when you know all this information. So you did your research, you found out all the information you needed to find out. You went out and actually got the performance from your rifle, and then compared that to a chart and found out what your maximum effective range was, and shot up to or close to that distance. And that, man, kudos, man, that's killer.
Yeah, and
dude,
you did
I
it
spent
in very
hours,
very short amount of time.
Sorry, what was that?
I said you did that at a very short amount of time. You said you had 4 months. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, it was actually 4 months from the day I found out I drew that tag, and I spent so many hours researching, reloading, and what. So, and last year I got into reloading for my 28 gauge. That's, by the way, I shoot ducks with a 28 gauge. If you didn't know that.
No. That was going to be our next episode, man. We can't be talking about ducks right now.
No. So I started reloading 28 gauge because the ammo shortage.
Yep.
And shotguns are so much different than rifles. You got to be with a shotgun. Oh, oops, an extra grain or two of powder, whatever. But on a rifle bullet, that could be the difference of your max load and blowing your gun up in your face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could definitely get too much chamber cylinder pressure in there, and you can send the bullet flying off a foot off course or more too. So you want to avoid all the
Exactly.
catastrophic things, but then too, if that one bullet is going out of your rifle that's not weighed right, and you're like, I'm dialed in, you're over there shooting at that elk, and it's a flyer because the grains aren't right. That's
Yeah.
a fatal mistake. That you might never
So
find that animal.
so going from shotgun and then to rifle, and I didn't plan on reloading rifle this soon. It's only because I drew that bull tag. But going from shotgun to rifle reloading, there's there's so much more to reloading rifle. It's unreal. I had no idea there was this much to it. I'm still learning more. I feel like every day.
Yeah, it's a
But
nonstop. Every time
but
I every time I go to load for the rifle I've loaded for since 2004, I still double check, triple check. I'm like
yep,
making sure that
yep,
everything's got my, of course, your sizing dies. You got to get all that stuff dialed in just right. Then I do my practice press,
yep.
and then I mic my practice bullet, and then I mic every 5. So I'm making sure that I'm staying within a certain tolerance. But nothing's worse too. Like, have you reloaded a bullet when you went to put it into the chamber there, and it doesn't go? It's been pressed too wide, or it didn't resize right.
I have not had that happen yet. I'm sure it will eventually, but I've been fortunate.
Yeah, sometimes you'll get one that just didn't get resized. It usually happens at the bottom of the cartridge, or the cartridge, where it doesn't close in. You can't get your bolt into battery. So that's frustrating. So I'm always constantly checking now. I mean, I don't know why I had that issue. Someone said it was too much case lube. So I was like, So I started making I started making sure that they weren't so they didn't have so much case lube on them, because that can cause dimpling on the cartridges and stuff like that. But so let's
So
get back.
yeah.
I was gonna say let's get back to that. We're getting on
We're gonna
reloading
have to
too
have like
deep, man.
an episode on reloading.
Yeah. So let's get back to the hunt. You drew the tag. You're going out.
So yeah, so to do this tag, had 4 months from the day. Got my rifle, scope, got that all good. Ammo, got my ammo good. And also, I'm thinking I'm out of shape. Who knows how many miles I'm gonna have to hike around the mountains for a bull elk. I mean, I never. Well, no, I was gonna say I wasn't. I was gonna say I didn't see elk last season, but I did. They were just on private property. Um, but so these last 4 months before my tag, I was really, watching what I ate. Didn't necessarily like hit the gym hard. I was more focused on just like leg strength. I think leg strength is kind of what you're gonna want when you're hiking around the mountains.
Yeah.
And um, so I, I I still think I didn't take it serious enough, and I didn't start walking enough or jogging enough or um. I mean, I know at work I did notice though I work in a pretty big facility, so I started walking a lot more versus just jumping in a pickup and going across the lot, and you know. But so scouting, I went up 3 weeks before my tag, and it was unfortunate. So I absolutely 100%, 110% believe in the whole. You got to watch your moon phases when you're hunting, no matter what you're hunting, big game or ducks or waterfowl, anything. It was a full moon like that weekend I went up there. Didn't see a single animal, but I knew there was elk in the area. And on the hike back out, so my girlfriend went with me for that scouting trip. And so we hiked in, camped one night, and on our way back out, there was fresh elk track all over, right over our boot prints.
Mm.
So I'm like, oh, I know they're here. I knew they were. There's fresh, fresh elk poo, everything. Just didn't see them because they're all bedded down during the day because they're all out at night with the full moon.
Mm.
And so it was, it was discouraging, but seeing that fresh elk track, I'm like, okay, I know where I'm coming opening day, and I seriously prepped for this. This tag was good for the whole month of October. And I'm thinking, I don't want to come out of the mountains until I have something. And the general deer season for up there opened on the 10th, which was 2 days ago. And I had planned, so I made sure I had my deer tag. I'm like, I am not coming out till I have something.
Yeah.
So I took enough food for like probably 15 days.
Bang, ready to go.
Dude, I did not want to come out of the mountains till I had something. And so lo and behold, get up there, Friday evening, get to camp. And it was actually, I got up later than I wanted to. It was getting dark while I was setting up everything. And so I take off Saturday morning, leave the side by side because, it's the last thing you want to do is run around in a side by side and scare everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I hike up the first ridge where I had been scouting and I hit my bugle. I just waited, listened, nothing. Okay. So I go to this next ridge and just glassing, sitting, bugle, listen, wait, nothing. I'm like, all right, well,
Another
let's go
hunting
on to the
day.
next. Let's go on to the next ridge. I mean, it's I'm hunting in wide open sagebrush at what am I at? I'm at 7,600 feet. But there's also trees. There's big, areas of pine trees and all that.
Big stands of trees,
And
or
yeah, oh yeah, there's plenty of forestry up there.
mm-hmm.
But since I had an any weapon tag and I got my rifle, I'm trying to get a bull out in the open. And so I get to this third ridge and just kind of looking around. Didn't even get my binos out. I was just looking, listening. I had never been in the mountains alone like this. So it was really nice. Just it's so peaceful. It's amazing. If you guys have never been in the mountains alone, I suggest you try it at least once.
Well,
but don't go without a sidearm. I definitely had a sidearm on me.
yeah. So ultimately, after all this hiking, how far away were you when you first started getting some action?
So the action, it came quick and ended real quick. I was just over a mile from my camp.
So let's paint a picture so the audience understands how far you're completely in. So you drove your truck to the end of where you felt comfortable driving your truck.
Right. Yeah. So if I was to go the truck, I hauled the side by side up with my truck. If I went any farther from this last campground, there's a sign that says trailers not recommended beyond this point because it's a nasty road. Anybody that takes a trailer up there is insane.
Yeah, they don't care about their trailer, one of the others.
Yeah. So after loading the side by side on Friday, I go in another 12. Well, no, I go in another 11 miles, 11 and a half miles. And that's where I camped at.
Okay.
It was up over the mountain. I mean, my pickup was at 7,400 feet. So get up to the top of the mountain. That's just shy of 10,000. Start dropping back down the other side. And there was only one other camp I saw. And they had one bull tag. But I went even farther past them. So I was 11 and a half miles from my pickup. And then when I started hunting Saturday morning, I got a total of 1.2 miles from my camp.
Okay.
Just by hiking.
Okay, let's take a small break right here. You listen to one of our sponsors and we'll be right back.
This section of the broadcast is brought to you by Burpaw, burpaw.com.
Use Ridge15 at checkout to receive a sweet discount. All right, Kody, welcome back. So you went in another 1.2 miles from where you had camped. So you're about, give or take, close to 13 miles from where you had parked your truck.
Yep.
What happens next?
And so after I get to this third ridge, so the first two ridges, I hit the bugle, just sit, wait, listen, and just taking in the scenery, like just I don't know. I can't even explain being up there alone. It's incredible. And so I get up to this third little ridge, look around, listening. I'll hit my bugle, see what happens. So I'm facing north, and so that power bugle I use, it's got that long flexible hose. I had that pointed, that would have been pointed west. Hit it, and directly behind me, so straight south, this bull just screams bloody murder at me. I mean, this wasn't a bugle. This was a full-on scream. And it was, as soon as I heard that, and I knew the other camp was, oh gosh, probably a good 5 miles from me, 4 or 5 miles from me. And I didn't think it would have been them. And sure enough, I turn around and yeah, it's a bull.
He starts walking now or what?
So I'm assuming I had called him kind of out of the trees, and because I'm out in wide open sagebrush, so I call him out of these trees, and he decides to scream at me from 700 yards away. So as soon as I hear him, I turn around, grab my rangefinder because he was close enough to that point. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get my rangefinder. I don't care about my binos.
Mm-hmm.
And he had just disappeared. I saw his butt disappear behind this little ridge. So I ranged where he was, and it said 700 exactly. I'm like, okay. So I rip my pack off and get my gun out of my pack has a gun scabbard built into it. So I get my rifle out, get my pack set up on this there's some rocks on the top of this little ridge, and get everything set up so I can get prone, take a nice still shot. And about 30, 45 seconds go by, and this bull pops back up at 620, and he's looking right at me. He's looking for the bull I'm pretending to be,
Yeah, exactly.
And so he's just looking. I see him sticking his nose in the air, sniffing and smelling, but the wind was coming directly from. So as I'm looking south, it was coming directly from my right. So it was coming from the west. He couldn't wind me, which was even better.
Perfect.
And so I wasn't sure if he was kind of losing interest or not, but he was still walking towards me, and then he stopped. So I bugle again, and I make sure to bugle behind, like away from me, so I'm not bugling at him. Which I think
that would have pinpointed you right away if that happened,
Exactly. So, and again, I'm very new to elk hunting. Well, not necessarily new, but I'm new to hunting for a bull. I've never hunted for a bull before. And so it gets him all excited, and he bugles back, and he starts coming closer. Next thing I know, he's at 500. I'm just watching, waiting. He keeps smelling. He's at 400.
Jeez.
Finally, he comes all the way into 300, and he had never turned broadside until that moment. My rangefinder said exactly 300. So I dialed. So my scope doesn't have a built-in MOA on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a standard duplex. So I adjust my elevation, and I had freaking bull fever, man. I had forgot. So whenever I chamber my rifle, I never put the safety on because when I'm at the range, when I chamber it, it's getting shot.
Mm-hmm.
It never has a round in it unless it's getting shot, so the safety never goes on. Well, when I had ripped my pack off and got my gun out, I chambered around and threw the safety on.
Oh.
So I had forgot the safety was on, but when I tried to pull the trigger with the safety on, I'm pretty sure I would have pulled that shot. So I think it saved me. So it forced me to get my nerves under control as this bull is just broadside 300 yards. To get my nerves under control, okay, take the safety off, and I let him have it. and it dropped him where he stood.
Straight down.
Yes, it dropped him. It went right where I put the bullet, right into his lungs. It actually didn't go. It didn't penetrate all the way to his left lung. It entered his right side. It took out his right lung, but it did drop him where he stood. This bull actually stood back up and then started walking straight left. Fortunately, and there was a couple trees. So as soon as he cleared those trees, he wouldn't stop. So I took another shot, and it spined him, but closer towards the front. So fortunately, it didn't take out too much backstrap meat, and that's what dropped him, and he could no longer use his back legs. And then he was still trying to stand up though. So I did have to reposition. I got a little closer, repositioned, and took one more shot to finish him off.
Man, that's incredible. You see people on shows throughout the years. I've watched hunting shows since I was, before I was hunting. It was Bill Dance and, all the other guys at Primos. They were all on TV, and we had the Nashville network we would watch, and yeah, it's pretty much where the hunting shows, began. The Real Tree and Mossy Oak, and you see them shoot animals, and they shoot them and they shoot them, and they have to shoot again, and I don't know what it is. When you went and you quartered them up and you were getting them out of there, did you see like a bullet entrance wound through a shoulder blade or anything, or was it just all rib cage and lungs, or because of that that bullet, it went through into one side, into one lung. That's a lot of energy transfer, especially when you're talking. I mean, I don't know what your pound feet of energy was at that distance, but it was over 1,500. And that
Oh yeah, it
instantly,
was. I did look it up, and I think it was about 2,400 foot-pounds of energy at that range.
so that's like a wall hitting a wall. If that bullet's mushrooming, or just not breaking up but staying together and widening out, that energy transferred instantly to that animal. I mean, it was not like you've heard of people shoot an animal, the bullet passes through because it doesn't mushroom enough. That sucker mushroomed. Like that had to been. Did you ever find your bullet inside?
So I never found any of the bullets. It was kind of a race against time at that point, to get the animal, get everything, get all the meat off, and get them cooled. But I don't. I didn't find any bullet fragment. I honestly didn't even bother looking. I was so focused on just getting the meat cooled off because it was a really, so to speak, it was a really nice day, and all I could think of was, and fortunately, it would get just about to freezing at night where I was, so I wasn't worried about after, later getting all the meat back. All I could focus on was getting that meat cooled off as soon as possible.
Yeah,
So
good thinking.
didn't didn't even search for bullet fragment, but when I was I was working on the right side of him where I took my first shot. Um, I did see where that bullet, it was just outside the edge of his shoulder, but I know it did hit his lung. That lung was, I mean, up, and so fortunately, the heart didn't get touched. I did get the full heart. Not I got every ounce of meat off that heart, which was awesome. Um, but that his right lung especially was just mush.
Just gelatinous.
And yeah, just complete mush. And um so the second shot that spined him, he I did lose about little less than a quarter of that backstrap. Um which I thought was kind of interesting. That bullet that spined him didn't go through him. Because the other side, that backstrap was in perfect condition. I got every ounce of that his right side backstrap.
That would have been interesting to see, like if you had recovered one, and I've never taken an animal with a rifle, but I have friends that have, and we'll occasionally find the round just because we'll be cutting them open and there'll be a round lodged in a bone or something, and we'll be like, oh, that's cool. We'll try to save that, just because it's kind of unique. Most of the time, if you shoot them and it's in their organ cavity, it's lost. I mean, it's like a needle in a haystack in an elk. There's so much
Yeah.
stuff going on in there. And you don't want to, you're not like trying to pilfer through the organ, the blood and stuff like that. But if you did find it, that would have been cool just to see what it looks like, like, because then it gives you a good insight as to what's taking place when your bullet meets an animal. And, the cool thing is that bullet transferred that energy into that animal because, that's the number one killer for rifles is shock energy. It sounds like it did its job. It dropped him right in his tracks. If it would have,
Yeah.
I mean, that was just this pure energy shock. I mean, he shut down there. So that's awesome, man. And then
Yeah, it was super satisfying to watch him drop where he stood. And, at 300 yards, I mean, I heard that bullet. As soon as I heard, because when I took the shot, with recoil, I had to readjust my rifle to get him back in my scope. But I had heard that first shot hit him. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I was like, I mean, I was kind of freaking out at that point. It's like, okay, he's hit. Get him back in your scope and make sure he can't go anywhere. All I could think of was being alone. I do not want to chase this animal for hundreds of yards.
Well, yeah, that'd been bad or worse. Fortunately, you kept your wits about you. You're able to, keep the important things in mind because a lot of people would have been, you see an elk dropping its tracks. A lot of people stand up. They're like, yes, and in 2 seconds, they're like, no, here it goes. It's taking off.
Yeah, it starts running off. And I'm just like, nope, first round, rack another one, get him back in my scope. And I'm watching him and he stood back up. I'm like, oh my gosh. I can't believe this guy just stood back up. And then that second shot is what fully disabled him from going anywhere.
Well, looking at the pictures you sent, he's a big one. Yeah, he's a nice 6x6, and his body looks massive. I mean, so he was definitely a big boy. And congratulations, man. The whole process, what you went through, drawing the tag, on your first application, going in there to where your truck couldn't go, or you didn't feel comfortable taking your truck any further. 11 more miles on side by side, setting up your camp by yourself, and then hiking in, close to a mile and a half over up to your third ridge, and you're talking like 2,500 foot elevation gain in each ridge. That is tremendous, man. And you put in the work, you did the homework, you did the physical work, you dialed everything in, and that's just like a testament to your will, man. That's my hat's off to you because that's a heck of a 4 months and a heck of an archery or heck of a hunting season.
Yeah, the fact that I was able to start this hunting season, well, technically started hunting season off with a nice dove hunt, but for this bull just, I mean, it's almost like I could say hunting season could end tomorrow, and I'm perfectly content with this season.
Yeah, you did. You've fulfilled a lot of your desires there, and well, what you've done is you've set me up for like a high expectation for this duck season. I'm excited to see what you come up with here.
Yeah, I mean, where I live here on the Snake River, it gets pretty busy. And so the guy that owns the property that I'll be guiding at, he's got a pretty cool boat. He's got a nice oh crap. I can't remember what brand he's got, but it's got a mud motor on it. It's 18 foot with a mud motor, like probably a 45 horse mud motor,
Mm-hmm.
And he flat out told me, he's like, I never use the thing. You can take it. You can go hunt the river, do whatever you want. I don't care. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that sounds great.
And I mean, it'd be awesome, as we continue to watch how the season goes and we stay in touch. if you guys could make it down for a hunt, that I think that'd be sweet.
Dude, I would be definitely able to make it down there. So
'Cause I
it's not.
so technically right now I quote unquote live with my parents. My place is being built next door,
Mhm.
and it should be done. It should be done in about a month.
Nice.
It's all up, walls are in. I mean, they're fine. They're just doing the fine tuning stuff,
Mhm.
and so I will have my own place, and I plan on having. I've got two good friends in Oregon on the West Coast. I plan on having them down. And it gets real good here late season because the river doesn't freeze. There's 58-degree water constantly going into this river, so it never freezes up anywhere.
Now, where is that coming from? Like a volcanic spring, or what is that?
Yeah, it's coming from the warm spring, well, hot spring, and so during the summer, it's colder than shit. Jumping in 58-degree water, it
Mhm.
is ice cold, but it keeps the water open during the winter. And for being such a small town, you'd never think there'd be this many ducks here, but there is.
Well, we're gonna keep that town a secret, but I am looking forward to the rest of the season, how things develop, following up and making sure, seeing how things go with your first official season guiding. And then hopefully we get a chance to make it out there. Everything goes well and your house construction is complete. Then you'll be dialed in, man. You can, maybe we'll get I don't know. Did you say you guys didn't have too many pintails over there?
So unfortunately, yeah, did not see any pintails last season. Um, I am gonna take I'm gonna take the last 2 weeks of December off, and I'm gonna go over to the Oregon coast and hunt the private lake I used to be a member at. I'm gonna go hang out over there for a couple days and try to shoot a pintail for the wall.
Hmm.
Because I've shot so many pintail. I have no idea how many I've shot. But but I've never mounted one. And there's two in particular I should have mounted, but I never did. And I need to go shoot one for the wall because here in southern Idaho where I've hunted, it's no pintails that I've seen anyway.
Well, I tell you what, I am gonna do my fair share of hunting this year, um, as much as I can get out. I had an 18-foot flat bottom. It was a Luma
There you go.
weld, and several years ago, the motors got stolen from it, and then dealing with insurance and whatnot, it was just way better of a deal for me to sell back the boat. And the numbers were great. I mean, as far as like how the transaction went down, but I never did buy another boat because the storage was an issue. I didn't want to put it back where it was, and it was in private property too. It's kind of unfortunate how everything went down, but I ended up buying a camper for the family. So we do a lot of camping, and so when we go like out towards Moses Lake, I bring my camper. My buddy brings his boat, and then we stay in my camper and we go out in his boat. So that's pretty good. And then someday, I would like to get another boat, but at this point, storage would be an issue, and the expense would be an issue just because it wouldn't get used enough. But I will definitely take you up on your offer and hopefully get down there, man, because I love duck hunting and I know that I just barely touching the tip of the iceberg for knowledge, and experience is, probably upper mediocre. It's not like it's not extensive. Um, because it's always been just me and my buddies. And I've been thinking more and more. I'm like, I just need to go. I'm going to go somewhere to private property to a landowner that's got a guide service. I'm going to hire an official guide because there's so many things involved that when I'm out there, I enjoy all the setup. I enjoy the preparation, but I want to get out there and just do a hunt. I don't want to be like, dang, my setup, it's not quite right. I want to go learn something from the people that know and then take some of that into what I can do on my own and then see how that takes me because sometimes you hire a guide to pick up a little bit of tactics and sometimes you just want to go out and enjoy yourself. And a lot of times the money is cheaper to do that. So if you're going to go out and you're considering getting a guide, I mean, I would do it. I don't think it's super expensive unless you get into something like what Kody's going to be working with in some of these other more exclusive places. But there's a lot of great guides out there. I plan on doing my fair share this year. We're going to meet a lot of guys this year at the Sportsman Show. If you can make it over to the Sportsman Show in January at the Puyallup Fairgrounds, we'll probably do a live from there, and then we'll go around. We're gonna interview some people throughout the show as well, and put that on a podcast so people can do like a meet and greet. We're gonna meet a lot of people that we'll probably book some hunts. We're gonna drop some money on next season and kind of get our preparations going, and we'll kick it off with probably a spring bear guide somewhere. We might do a Quinault tribal hunt, but that's more local for us.
Yeah, for sure. When is the Sportsman Show over there?
I think it's January 17th through the 19th.
Okay.
That's like the last weekend of our duck hunting season. I know usually the last day of duck hunting season, everybody at the Sportsman Show is like, well, today's the last day of duck season, and they're duck hunting guides, and they're not they're not out doing it. They're at the Sportsman Show booking for next year. So we'll definitely stay in touch. We're going to keep this thing rolling, and we're going to have our follow-ups, and we're going to see where this thing takes us. And hopefully this season you have a great time, your clients have a great time, and everybody gets to enjoy themselves.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your story. Once again, where can people find you on Instagram for your season updates and your hunting?
On Instagram, it's just Rockwell509. It's pretty simple.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you being on once again, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.